Now, let's watch carefully what's emerging in Psalm 27 in verses 5 and 6. David continues, "For in the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion." Really? "In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock." That's David's exclamation. I think it's an emotional exclamation. "In the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up on a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord." Wait a minute. Time out. Is it possible that in David's flow of words here, the Holy Spirit did some editing? Is it possible the Holy Spirit has put a little hint in here about something? Let me tell you frankly, one of the most authoritative seminaries in the country, Dallas Theological Seminary, would argue what I'm about to tell you or suggest to you. They would refute this possibility. So I want that being understood. I'm going to show you something that would be at least controversial. I want you to take a look at verse 5 very carefully. "For in the time of trouble," what does that mean eschatologically? Great tribulation? "In the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion." What on earth is that? "In the secret of his tabernacle," that's where he's dwelling, "shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock." Now, Paul would make the case in 1 Corinthians 10:4 and other places that the rock refers to Christ in general, as a metaphor. It may or may not here, but let's assume it does. This leads to a conjecture. I'm among those that suspect that the rapture of the church is hinted at 3 times in the Old Testament. This is one of them, Psalm 27:5, that we've just stumbled into. Let's take a look at Isaiah 26, starting at verse 17 through 21. Isaiah 26, verse 17. It says, "Like as a woman with child that draweth near the time of her delivery is in pain and crieth out in her pangs, so have we been in thy sight, O Lord." Birth pangs. What does Matthew say? All these things are the beginning of sorrows? No, birth pangs. Not really. "We have been with child, we have been in pain, we have, as it were, brought forth wind. We have not wrought any deliverance in the earth, neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen." Now get the next, I'm just giving you some context. These are the verses that I want you to focus on. "Thy dead men shall live. Together with my dead body shall they arise." Sounds like a resurrection to me. "Awake and sing, ye that dwell in the dust. For thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead." Get this verse. This is my favorite. Isaiah 26:20. "Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation is passed over." Come, my people. How many of you are God's people? Got most of your hands. That's pretty good. Okay. "Enter thou in thy chambers. In my Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I'll receive you unto myself, that where I am, there may you be also." John 14 and following, next few chapters. Go through all that. "Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment." We're not going to be here during the indignation, is what I think is the harpazo is all about. Hide ourselves, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation. What's the indignation? The wrath of God. Called the indignation in a number of places. You can chase that down, look it out for yourself, for what it's worth. "Come, my people, enter thou in thy chambers." Because then it continues, "For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain." The word blood there is in the plural, if that means anything special. So I leave that with you. There's one more that I'll just throw in here to cause confusion, discussion on your way home. In Zephaniah, chapter 1, verse 18, and the last verse of chapter 1, the first couple of verses of chapter 2. I was putting this slide together this afternoon when I got a call from a friend of mine in Fresno, California, who's asking me a question about Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 18. I thought that's kind of interesting. It's funny you should mention, Scott. Guess what I'm doing right now? It happened, you know. And of course, there is no such, the coincidence is not a kosher word, the rabbis remind us. Zephaniah says, neither silver nor gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath, but the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy. Ooh, that's a frightening phrase. The fire of God's jealousy. Ooh. For he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. Gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation, not desired or not desirous. That can go either way there in that translation. Before the decree bring forth, before the day passes the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come down upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. Then you get the verse I'm after, verse 3, Zephaniah 2:3. Seek the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which ye have wrought in his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. That's kind of cool. I wouldn't build doctrine from any one of these verses, certainly not this last one. It could just be referring to those that are protected through the tribulation. That may be what it's referring to. But I just think these are three interesting little verses. You may want to include your notes when someone says, the rapture's not in the Old Testament. You say, well, maybe it isn't, but let me show you three verses. Okay. So that's Zephaniah 2:3. Okay, getting back to Psalm 27.